Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into the latest buzz in cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Yeah, lots going on.
For sure. And you, our listener, you're likely trying to keep pace with, well, just this constant flow of information.
It's nonstop.
Exactly. So our goal today is really to cut through the headlines, extract the core developments, and give you a clear understanding of their potential impact.
Right. We've pulled together a bunch of sources trying to give you that focused perspective.
It's a dynamic field, you know?
Yeah.
Staying informed shouldn't feel like a full-time job.
Definitely not. We're here to help you kind of understand the significant shifts and, well, why they might actually matter.
Okay, let's get into it then. A major piece of news this week was President Trump's declaration, April 2nd as Liberation Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that immediately sparked discussions around reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah, saw that everywhere.
We even saw Bitcoin briefly flirt with, what was it, $87,000 before seeing a pullback.
Right, a quick spike and then down again.
Right. Now, as always, it's really vital to look at the primary sources for this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the White House official channels, they did confirm the focus on these reciprocal tariff measures.
Super important to check the source, yeah.
So we're going to explore how these tariffs could potentially create some, well, interesting tailwinds for Bitcoin and maybe the broader crypto ecosystem.
Well, what's interesting there is just the speed, how fast global economic policy can ripple through digital asset markets.
Yeah.
That immediate price reaction in Bitcoin, it really highlights how sensitive it is to these geopolitical and economic announcements.
Definitely.
And this volatility, while, maybe concerning at first, it also kind of points to Bitcoin's potential role as maybe a safe haven asset when things get uncertain economically.
Interesting.
These reciprocal tariffs could kind of inadvertently strengthen that narrative if they lead to worries about traditional currency values.
That's a really interesting angle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, global economic policies rippling into crypto. Now, let's switch gears a bit and look at a more direct form of government engagement right here in the U.S.
Right.
Both Alabama and Minnesota are making moves towards establishing Bitcoin reserve plans.
Wow. Okay. State level.
Yeah. Alabama's Senate Bill 283, SB 283. It proposes allowing the state treasurer to invest up to 10% of specific state funds into digital assets. That includes Bitcoin, stablecoins, and even exchange-traded products.
10%. That's not insignificant. If you connect this to the bigger picture, this represents a potentially huge evolution in how states see and interact with digital assets.
Right.
Thinking about Bitcoin as a reserve asset isn't just like a concept anymore. We're seeing actual legislative steps.
Exactly.
Beyond just diversification, what does it even signal about how Bitcoin's perceived when, traditionally conservative groups like state governments start considering it?
Yeah, good question.
Does this kind of open the door for more institutional adoption? Does it normalize its place in the wider financial system?
It certainly raises some important questions, doesn't it? And the Alabama bill, it has some specific criteria.
Like what?
It says these eligible assets need to be either secured ETFs or have maintained an average market cap of at least $750 billion over the preceding 12 months.
Okay, $750 billion market cap.
Yeah. So as it stands today, it seems only Bitcoin would actually meet that requirement.
Makes sense.
The proposed effective date for this, if it passes, is October 1st, 2025.
Okay, so still a little ways off.
And Minnesota is kind of on a similar track with House File 2946, HF 2946.
Right.
This bill also proposes allocating a portion of state reserves into Bitcoin and other digital assets.
Cool.
And it outlines guidelines for secure custody, risk management.
Important stuff.
And even the potential to generate yield through lending and staking.
Interesting. Yield generation, too. Their date.
Their proposed effective date is January 1st, 2026.
So just after Alabama, potentially, this whole thing raises a big question about diversification and risk management for states, right?
Totally.
These bills suggest there's this growing belief in Bitcoin's potential, maybe as a hedge against inflation or a way to boost long-term financial stability.
Seems like it.
And including rules for secure custody and risk management, that shows they're being cautious, recognizing these assets are unique.
True.
But isn't there a huge volatility risk with Bitcoin? How do these states square potential big price swings with needing stable reserve assets?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
It definitely suggests a long-term view, maybe a belief that the potential upside outweighs the risks, especially when you consider Bitcoin's capped supply.
The scarcity argument.
Yeah. Okay, moving now.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other side of the world. specifically Singapore.
Okay, Singapore.
We've seen a pretty significant move there in terms of mainstream adoption. Sony, the huge consumer electronics company,
Yeah, of course.
they've partnered with Crypto.com.
Oh, interesting pairing.
Sony will now support USDC payments via Crypto.com. Pay for online purchases in Singapore.
USDC payments, okay?
This is a pretty substantial development, actually.
Yeah.
Makes Sony the first consumer electronics brand in Singapore to enable direct crypto payments.
That is significant,
Yeah.
especially the practical use of stablecoins in just everyday transactions.
Right.
USDC being, regulated and pegged to the US dollar, it offers that price stability that makes it way more appealing for both shoppers and businesses.
A good point.
Sony adopting it could really signal a turning point for broader stablecoin acceptance as just a normal payment method.
Yeah. Feels like it could be.
It wasn't that long ago that using crypto for everyday stuff felt like science fiction almost.
Totally.
This Sony news makes you think, okay, maybe we're starting to see that future actually arrive, at least in some places.
Yeah, pockets of it. Definitely. Okay, on a slightly different note, and maybe a bit less positive for some.
Uh-oh.
We saw that Bybit is shutting down its NFT marketplace and also its inscription audio platform.
Ah, Bybit. Okay.
The closure is effective April 8th, 2025. They haven't publicly stated a specific reason, which is fairly common in these situations.
Yeah, they often keep it vague.
But for those of you active in the non-fungible token and initial DX offering space, this is certainly something to note.
Yeah, this really highlights how dynamic and honestly sometimes unpredictable the whole crypto ecosystem is.
For sure.
The NFT market especially has had some major ups and downs in interest and trading volume.
Big time.
Bybit's decision could just reflect them realigning their resources strategically, Or maybe challenges in keeping a competitive, profitable platform in those specific, fast-changing areas.
Could be.
And just for context, for those maybe less familiar, an inscription on a blockchain is basically a way to embed data like art or text directly onto individual Satoshis, the smallest Bitcoin unit.
Right.
And an initial DX offering, or IDO, is how new crypto projects raise funds on decentralized exchanges. So Bybit closing this platform suggests maybe a shift in their strategy around these newer crypto trends.
Good explanation. Okay, shifting focus again. Let's talk Middle East, specifically Dubai in the UAE.
Dubai, okay? Always interesting stuff happening there.
Yeah, seeing some interesting developments, especially where traditional finance meets cutting-edge tech. Accenture and the Commercial Bank of Dubai, or CBD, they formed a partnership.
Accenture and CBD, right.
The goal is to provide comprehensive training for CBD employees in data and artificial intelligence.
Ah, upskilling. That's smart.
Yeah, and this initiative has actually led to CBD becoming the first bank in the UAE with an enterprise-wide data literacy program and recognized certifications in both data and AI.
Wow, first in the UAE. That underscores the huge and frankly essential role of data and AI in modern finance now.
Absolutely.
For a big established bank like CBD to invest so heavily in training its entire workforce, that really shows a forward-thinking approach. They're trying to stay competitive, use these tools to improve customer service, efficiency, all that.
Absolutely. And while we're on Dubai, it really seems to be cementing its position as a major hub in the digital asset world.
It feels that way, yeah.
The crypto exchange WEX, that's WEEX, they're relocating their global strategy to Dubai.
WX moving to Dubai. Okay.
And they have announced plans to actively participate in the upcoming Token 2049 event there.
Makes sense. Big conference.
It really feels like Dubai is making this concerted effort to attract businesses in this space.
Well, Dubai's proactive approach, you could even say progressive, in setting up clear regulations and actively encouraging the digital asset sector, it's clearly working, right?
Seems like it.
They're attracting major players from all over. WEX moving there just further cements Dubai's growing reputation as a key international spot for crypto innovation and business.
Yeah.
It's a calculated move for WEX, probably, allows them to operate in a more defined and seemingly, supportive regulatory environment.
It really looks like Dubai is pushing hard to be the crypto hub. What specific factors do you think are making it so attractive, beyond just the regulations?
Well, the regulatory clarity is huge, like you said. It gives certainty that's often missing elsewhere.
Sure.
Plus, their whole proactive stance just signals a welcoming vibe for innovation. The infrastructure's there, the talent pool's growing.
Yeah.
It's a package deal, really.
Yeah, makes sense. So, okay, let's try and bring it all together. In this deep dive, you've now got a handle on President Trump's reciprocal tariffs and their potential, maybe unexpected influence on crypto.
Right?
The groundbreaking moves towards Bitcoin reserves in Alabama and Minnesota.
Big deal at the state level.
Sony's big step accepting USDC in Singapore.
Mainstream adoption, yeah.
The news of Bybit streamlining by closing its NFT marketplace.
Market dynamics shifting.
And Dubai is increasing importance as this global center for both crypto and AI.
Quite a mix. And if we look closer at Trump's reciprocal tariff strategy again, the core idea basically is leveling the playing field.
Right.
Imposing tariffs on goods from other countries that match the tariffs those countries hit U.S. goods with.
Tit for tat, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And the intended result is to encourage companies to invest and make stuff in the U.S. to avoid those tariffs. Reports suggest this strategy has already secured over, what, $5 trillion in planned investment?
It's a staggering figure, yeah. And when you compare the current tariff landscape, the differences are really stark.
Like what?
Well, for instance, China currently has tariffs around 67%, the EU about 39%, Vietnam a huge 90%, Taiwan around 64%.
Wow, okay. Big numbers.
Under Trump's proposed reciprocal tariffs, these rates would actually be lower in most cases, like roughly 34% for China, 20% for the EU, 46% for Vietnam, 32% for Taiwan.
So lower, but still reciprocal.
Exactly. And interestingly, there are exceptions, like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, where the reciprocal tariff is reported to be around 10% on both sides.
Oh, okay. Lower baseline there. Now, zooming back in on those Bitcoin reserve plans in Alabama and Minnesota.
Yeah, let's dig into the details.
A few key things for listeners to consider. Both bills propose that 10% limit on digital asset investments.
Right, the cap.
The eligibility criteria needing either SEC-approved ETFs holding the assets or that consistent $750 billion plus market cap currently means only Bitcoin really fits the bill.
As of today, yeah.
Both states are emphasizing secure custody solutions, which is crucial. And they're even looking at ways to generate returns through lending or staking.
The yield aspect again.
Yeah. And what's also noteworthy is Alabama and Minnesota aren't alone here. Similar bills are being looked at in South Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, Utah.
Wow, quite a few.
Yeah, apparently there have been 47 such bills introduced across 26 different states, and 41 of them are still active in the legislative process.
That's actually a lot more widespread than I realized. Shows real momentum.
Definitely something brewing at the state level.
And Sony accepting USDC in Singapore.
Yeah.
It just really highlights the growing real-world use case for stablecoins, doesn't it? As a practical payment method.
Totally. This move by such a major global brand could seriously pave the way for broader adoption for just everyday buying, bridging that gap between, abstract crypto and actual commerce.
Yeah, it feels less niche now.
For sure. And regarding WEX moving to Dubai, it's worth remembering they claim a big user base, right? Like 6.2 million registered users.
Yeah, and significant daily trading volume, often over $5 billion.
And they've got that partnership with Michael Owen, the footballer.
Right.
But, and this is always crucial for listeners, do your homework.
Always.
Exercise thorough due diligence. Independently verify WEX's licensing status with Dubai's Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority, VARI, before you engage with them.
Absolutely critical advice. Don't just take their word for it.
Never.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it's clear we're seeing this really complex mix of events globally, from big government policy shifts
like the tariffs
to major companies embracing digital payments,
Sony,
and even individual states thinking about putting Bitcoin in their reserves.
Alabama, Minnesota, and others. And all these things, they might seem separate, but they point towards this rapidly maturing landscape where the lines between old school finance, new tech, and digital assets are getting really blurry and interconnected.
Yeah, everything's starting to bleed together. Okay, here's a final thought for you, our listener, to really chew on.
All right, lay it on us.
Considering all these global developments we've talked about, government policies, corporate adoption, state-level crypto reserves, what single factor do you personally believe will end up having the most profound, the most lasting impact on where cryptocurrencies and blockchain tech go in the next few years?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Regulation, adoption, tech breakthroughs.
Exactly. It's definitely something worth pondering as this fascinating and really transformative space keeps evolving.
For sure. Lots to watch.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this deep dive.